If you want to survive in design, you'd better learn to code. This is the title of an article I read this morning on Wired.com. It was written by Liz Stinton. I kind of want to just pull out a few highlights from this article and have a discussion with you guys. John Maeda gives this design and technology report every year at South by Southwest. And that's kind of what this article is about. And if you're unfamiliar with John Maeda, he's kind of a big deal in design. In fact, the article that I read this morning on Wired describes him as being to design what Warren Buffett is to finance, meaning that he's a seasoned technologist who has spent more than a decade at the MIT Media Lab before becoming the president of the Rhode Island School of Design. He's also a partner at the VC powerhouse Kleiner Perkins, and now he's the head of computational design and inclusion at Automatic. This is WordPress.com's parent company. So there's a lot of authority behind the presentation that is given, and I'm going to walk through not the presentation, but this article that I read. So I've made a few slides, and the first one I have here is that the role of design is changing. It's no longer enough to iterate and understand your user. What companies need now are designers who can empathize and bang out lines of JavaScript. I thought that was quite poignant, right? Because I've ran a YouTube channel for several years called Dev Tips, and the long name of it is Dev Tips for Designers. The initial aim of it was to find designers who want to become more adept in development as a skill. And so a line like that, like in Wired.com that says companies are looking to hire designers who can bang out lines of JavaScript, it's extremely validating to a YouTube channel like Dev Tips. And so in the article, the author pulls out this kind of key phrase that Maeda uses called a computational designer. And a pull quote from the article is that in the report, Maeda makes the distinction between a classic designer, the makers of finite objects for a select group of people, so think graphic designer, industrial designer, furniture designer, and computational designers, right? Computational in air quotes. Computational designers who deal mostly in code and build constantly evolving projects that will impact millions of people's lives. So when I see this comparison of like the classic designer and the computational designer, I really am kind of split on this definition, and it seems to be because the emphasis is trying to be placed on scale. Like industrial designs don't impact millions of people. I mean, tell that to Johnny Ive or like the designers of freeways or buildings or things like this, or furniture or fashion designers. Like, they don't touch millions of people's lives. I don't understand that. But as a general theme, I think that designers should have a very flexible skill set, and even if not just a skill set, but a flexible interest, right? Because we need to be open to being informed by other disciplines, and that's really, really important to become a well-rounded designer. And being able to code, I feel like I kind of lucked out because I decided that I wanted to make that one of my design tools early on, and I've kind of just evolved with it and have learned CSS and JavaScript, but I've always kind of used them as a design tool. The code has never been, my goal. My goal has always been to make living, breathing, usable things and products and experiences. So in that way, I look at the coding part of what I do as a design skill. I don't think of it as something foreign, like they're in two separate verticals, design here and code here. I don't look at it that. I think code is a design tool. And to say that designers need to do any one thing is limiting, actually, to what a designer is. In fact, a designer's most traditional and most rewarding skill is the idea that we can collaborate with other types of creators. In fact, that's what makes us so great, is that a designer, we need other people. I don't know if we should be required to do all these things. Involving other people in a collaborative process actually creates a better experience and a better result in the end. So here's another quote. And again, it's talking about these computational designers. Their hybrid status is increasingly attractive to technology companies that are looking for employees who can both identify problems and build solutions. When you can do both, you can do things that no one else can do, says John Maeda. Technology companies that innovate tend to have these unique people. So my response to that is like, sure, like the more skilled you are, the more you can do. Like I totally get that. But also in making the claim that these are the kinds of people who get jobs now and people who can't design and code don't get jobs, I think that is totally unfounded and actually incorrect. And furthermore, I think it really, really depends on the organization that is looking to hire, right? So I've spent years in Silicon Valley doing startups, and as a designer who can code, I felt that my skill set, my broad skill set in that way was complementary to the types of companies that I worked with. Early stage companies and small teams can really use versatile creators. As a designer, when you're submitting code with like the people who are like technically hired as engineers, I think that's a really good thing. Now that I work at Google, I really don't code at all anymore. And I don't feel limited by that. You see, I don't feel like that is that I'm losing out on anything. I feel, in fact, that I'm enhanced by my ability to focus on what I do best and collaborate with people that code better than I ever could. And so it really, really depends. These statements on like technology companies that innovate tend to have these unique people. Speaking of computational designers, I feel like the author of this article is trying to make a specific point, and that person's at liberty to make that point. And I'm not trying to denigrate small teams and startups or extol larger companies. I'm just saying that the required skills to thrive in each of these may be a little different, and that makes sense. Another slide saying that design is still having its moment. Since 2004, corporations like Accenture, Capital One, and Deloitte have scooped up more than 71 independent design consultancies, with 50 of those multi-million-dollar talent grabs happening in the past 2 years. Meanwhile, business schools, starting with Yale School of Management, have begun adding design classes to their core curriculum. Companies like McKinsey and IBM have promoted designers to the top level of management, an acknowledgement that design has, in many ways already, proven itself. Okay, again, here, a lot of companies are doubling down on the ideas of design, but again, I don't see that as supporting the thesis that designers need to code. In fact, here's a quote from another article, and you can see how it takes those same points, those same source material, and comes away with an entirely different conclusion. The quote is being, Facebook, Google, and Amazon have hired 65% more designers in the past year. Why is the demand happening now? Because technology is so commoditized, anyone can make an app, Maeda told us. Now that you can do that, how does it make someone feel? How relevant is it to someone's life? That is more of a design question. This kind of makes the exact opposite point as the other quote, right? It says that if production is so commoditized, what then unique value do you bring to this whole process? And I like this as it focuses more on the question than the solution. And maybe it's the designer in me, but I believe that you can get further down the road with a good question than a good answer. Another quote is that design's role in this world is constantly shifting. In his 2017 report, Maeda makes the case that the most successful designers will be those who can work with intangible materials, code, words, and voice. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. And the more and more I read these selections and kind of like get into the headspace of where I think Maeda is kind of actually going, I realize how clickbaity that title of this article really is. I don't believe that Maeda is trying to answer the tired old question of should designers learn to code. He's saying something bigger, like designers who are successful are going to be more flexible in the future. But I really did love the sentiment that the author extracted from the presentation at the end. I love this at the end here. Saying that as the distinction between engineering, writing, and design becomes blurrier, design's role in technology only stands to become more ingrained in the product development process. In the end, design as a singular field could become less visible, but more relevant. Thanks for watching. My name is Travis Nielsen. Leave me your thoughts below on the changing nature of the relationship of design and production, and have a good night.